Mia cucina in Italian means my kitchen, and I am going to show you today how to make a delicious gluten-free antioxidant cookie. Yes, and this is a golden almond cookie. We're going to be utilizing almond flour, ground turmeric, salt, black pepper, baking soda, cinnamon, and some wonderful wet ingredients. You can find the entire recipe by scrolling down on my recipe. So what we're going to do, what I have here is I have two cups of almond flour, and I'm going to put on my gloves. Now, when I bake these cookies or make these cookies, I usually don't wear gloves. But if you don't want to get yellow or golden, you may want to wear gloves. So that's what I'm going to do with this right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix the dry. This is a very easy cookie. I have my oven at 350 degrees. They are going to bake for approximately 12 to 13 minutes, depending on how you like them. If you want them a little more crispier, you're going to leave them a little bit longer. And they are wonderful. You cannot have one cookie. Actually, when I bake these cookies, I usually make a couple of batches because that's how much we love them. You know, I'm trying to get this glove. It'll take longer for me to put on the glove than it is for me to make the cookie. All right, so what I like to do is I like to come in here and I really like to kind of fluff up my almond flour. And I have unbleached, or you can have a bleached or unbleached. This one is, I apologize, it's bleached. And it's also super fine flour. To this, I am going to be adding my turmeric. And turmeric is an anti-inflammatory and it's very wonderful for us. I'm not going to talk about the health benefits, but check it out, read it. I'm not a nutritionist and I'm not a doctor. Now to this, I'm also going to add some cinnamon that's going to give it such a wonderful, warm taste, and I absolutely love it. Then I'm going to be adding my black pepper, because what happens in the body is the only way to have turmeric to absorb into the body, you need to add pepper. And I am adding black pepper, some salt, and some baking soda to this. Now with this right here, I really want to mix this very, very well, because then I'm going to be bringing in the wet ingredients. It's a very easy cookie, very, very simple, and it's so tasty. And wait till I show you the results. So mix this up really, really well, like I'm doing like here. And I usually use, you know, one of these guys to mix it, so then that way it's all combined very, very, very well. I want to make sure that I always look at the bottom to make sure that they're all mixed. Okay, now to this, I am going to be adding my maple syrup, my honey, my vanilla extract, and also the coconut milk. Now the coconut milk has to be measured. So when you measure it, make sure that you have 2 full tablespoons of measured coconut oil. So I'm going to have that in here like so. I want to make sure that I get all of this deliciousness in here. And then here comes the rest, my wonderful honey. When you are utilizing honey, I highly suggest that you buy honey that is from where you are. In other words, you know, that is a local honey. Because a lot of people have a lot of allergies. And when you buy them at the store and you buy in honey, you don't know where that honey came from. So if you find someone near you that sells local honey, I highly suggest for you to use that. So I want to make sure I have that. And then here I have my 2 tablespoons. And what I do when I measure my tablespoons, guys, is I take my coconut oil and I take the 2 tablespoons, and then what I do is I dissolve it. and that makes exactly it. So if you were to take, if it's already dissolved and you take 2 tablespoons, it's not going to work. You have to, you know, open the jar, you know, and do that. And I found that this cookie comes out really well like that. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to utilize my hands, because I find that it's a lot easier for me to work with. And I have my gloves. And as you can see, the cookie is coming together. I don't want it over mix it. I just want it for it to kind of, you know, combine together. See what I'm doing here, guys? See what I'm doing? And you're mixing it until it comes together. So because, you know, we don't want a hardened cookie. We want a nice, wonderful, chewy cookie. Nice and crispy in the outside and nice and chewy in the inside. So now that I have this wonderful little cookie here that's mixed, then get yourself a tray, and I have added some parchment paper to it, because then that way the cookie will not stick. And then what you want to do is, I just want to make sure that I combine it a little bit more, because sometimes with coconut flour, when you're working with coconut flour, it takes a few minutes for it to absorb all the deliciousness that you are utilizing. And that's what when it's coming together like this is when it's ready. And then what I do is I usually take a scoop and I press it very, very tightly here. And then I'm just going to come and bring it over here like so. And then I just push it down. I'm going to push it down. I'm going to do the same thing to this one. That's why it's so important when you're measuring the coconut oil, not to take, you know, to not measure it that it's already melted. You need to really measure it when it's hardened. And what I mean by that is, I think I have it here. Well, I don't have it here, but you know what I'm talking about. So now you could do it that way, or you could do it with your hands, and you can make it as big as you want. Oops. And that's what it looks like. And that's what I like to do. I kind of like to put him like in my hands like this. And you think that, how is this going to happen? It really works, guys. It really works. I like to put him in my hand, really. And then I kind of like to kind of push them together, like so. And try to make them all the same size. Sometimes, you know, I would make them larger than others. But I find that when I make them larger than others, then I tend to eat more of them. And because that's how good they are. And when I make them smaller, I feel like I can eat more of them. So if they're small, I figure, well, 2 of those will equal 1 bigger one. Right? That's how we talk to ourselves. And as you can see, it's very, very simple, this transaction. And it's only going to bake, like I said, 12 to 13 minutes. And I always, you know, my grandma, when she would bake, she never put a timer on. She always would smell it. She would always smell it. You see how pretty they look? They are just little jewels. And these will last up to a week on an airtight container in a nice cool place. I would not put them in the refrigerator. I would just put them in a nice cool dark place in a nice tin. I usually put mine in a tin that is lined with parchment paper. Like I said, try to make them all the same. Now, people have asked me if you can make a double batch. I have never done a double batch. I have done them separately. But if you do a double batch, let me know how it worked out for you. But it's like I said, it's very, very important, because when this cookie is being made, if you're only going to measure, and I keep talking about this, if you're only going to measure the coconut oil that it's already been dissolved, it's not going to work. It needs to be the coconut oil that you can take 2 tablespoons and then melt it. And if you were to measure that, it measures approximately a 4 1/4 tablespoons. So it's not, you know, the melted You understand? Okay, good. Because if not, they're not going to quite come out. All right, so then I think I have one more here that I am going to do. And it makes a good, less than a dozen cookies, you know, if you're going to a party. So you may want to make more. This one I have a little bit extra, and I want to take all of this because this is delicious. Now, if you are really watching your sugar intake, you may want to maybe cut down a little bit on one or the other, whether it's the honey or maple syrup, because they each have 1/8 of a quarter cup each of the honey and also the maple syrup. So I'm pretty much done with all of this. My hands are clean. And now I'm going to put these guys in the oven in the middle rack, right here, like so. Here they go. Start my timer. And I'm not going to keep you here the whole time, because then what you're going to have is, let me bring these over to you. Look how beautiful these golden almond cookies are. Now let me get one so I can show you how beautiful it is, because I baked these earlier. Look at that. Aren't they beautiful? And they are so tasty and so delicious for all of us that are gluten-free. I want to thank all my wonderful sponsors, and I want to thank you today for joining me in making the golden almond cookies. And I want to thank each one of you. Thank you, and God bless everyone.